afternoon, and welcome to our live chat Recruiter Zone chat. I'm here, Louise, Triance from UK Recruiter, with Stephen O'Donnell and Teri. Teri, you can introduce yourself in a minute, if that's okay, if I quickly say what the purpose of our chat is.
Go for it.
And we'll be joined by Bill Borman shortly. So today we're talking about, there's such a lot of events in the recruitment marketplace for in-house agency recruiters, and how do those people choose which events to go to? So we're going to chat through that today. We're sponsored by Fish, who are a regular event sponsor, and they don't do every event in the market, and as a sponsor they have to choose which ones they go to. But we're not talking about that side of it today. What we're talking about is the attendee side. And what I thought we'd do is have a think about some of the things which potential attendees should consider. Now, Teri, do you want to introduce yourself and talk about some of the events you do?
Yeah, so Teri Etherington, Country Manager, Recruitment International. So before I started at Recruitment International, I was in recruitment myself for a long time. And I worked for the organisations I worked for, kind of shied away really from going to a lot of events, which is a real shame actually, because now I get to see a lot more of what goes on and the benefit that you get from it. So I started here about 5.5 years ago, and at the time I'd never organised an event at all. So I started really by going to a lot of events out in the marketplace, and a lot of my role still, as you know, is actually going to events myself. So when I first started, the vast majority of our events were big conferences. By big, I'd say over 100 delegates. And the main structure is you're sitting listening to between 5 and 8 speakers throughout the day. You know, there's a few networking breaks, and the topics would be really anything to do with recruitment. So to start with, it would be quite generic, like how do you grow your business? And I introduced things around kind of social media and attraction, and lots of different topics that we hadn't done here at RI before. And from what I see, I think things are evolving now, and they're definitely changing a lot for us at RI. And I definitely think that as a delegate, they're starting to see more than just the topic. So it's a lot more looking at who's actually going to be there and thinking beforehand, why am I going? So I definitely speak to a lot of our agency owners and directors, and a big part of why they go is actually networking, at a very senior level. And I think sometimes that's kind of missed a little bit. I think there's a lot of events that are social events that are just there for the networking. But I think if you get the topic right and you're starting to attract the right sort of delegates, it opens up very quickly. Very quickly you've got an audience that are all of the same level, same sort of challenges within their business, and you can kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So you can make sure that the speakers are absolutely right and that the delegates get to learn as well as have the networking. But it's really hard, it's really tough to continuously find speakers that are relevant, interesting, covering topics that haven't been said before. And I think that's the big challenge for all of us.
There's 2 things you brought up there which I thought we could talk about actually. One of them is the peer-to-peer learning of events, and if Bill joins us, I mean that's what the true events are about.
Absolutely.
You come along and there's a theme or there's a topic, and the learning doesn't just come from the key presenter. Well, there isn't a key presenter. It comes from even the audience. And I think that if I'd have gone to an event 10 years ago, we'd have all been sat in
silence.
That's right. And maybe
because no one would have said anything.
You might say to someone in the networking break, did you enjoy it? But even then, they weren't going to start saying about what their own experiences were. And I think as an attendee now, you can hope, I think, for the right event to get as much from your fellow attendees as from the speaker.
Yeah, I have to say that's exactly what we're seeing. There's far more interaction and wanting to go to round table events, smaller events where you might have sort of 15, 20 people in a room discussing a topic that's 100% relevant to them. I think that's, massive, and exactly what Bill does. We're doing an event on the 2nd of March, which is a marketing mashup, which is exactly that. People that work in marketing roles, either in recruitment or as a supplier, that want to come and talk about what they do and what their challenges are. And we'll probably do, very similar to Bill, have a topic, 2 topics that we'll just cover that day. And we won't have an expert in, everyone in the room is an expert on some level. And I think it is much more, it used to be, I know everything, what can you teach me? And I just don't think that it's like that anymore. It's definitely much more interactive. I think people aren't so scared. People used to be quite scared.
Yeah, I think the audience has decided that they can get more from events, so they put more in, and it obviously makes sense. But Stephen, you're running an event. Are we allowed to talk about it yet?
We can say that I'm thinking about running an event. I'm in the preparation for running an event. Actually, it ties in with the question I was going to ask Teri. Organising any event, if you have an idea for an event, to do it for the first time, it's very much chicken and egg, because you don't know really if the event is going to hit the right notes with the audience, whether they'll come. You don't know that speakers will come, because you can't promise them a particular audience. And there's a huge element of trust going around, where everyone's looking at each other and hoping that it all works out. So when you're thinking about or deciding on having a new event, what are the key things that make you decide, yep, I'm going to go ahead with this?
How much of a headache I can deal with at that precise moment. I think the first thing is, if you can do something to change or adapt an existing event. So if you've got an event that's worked well, but you kind of feel like it's had its day, trying to think about how to rejig it, change it so that it's more current and more relevant, and that everyone's getting a bit more out of it. But trying to keep some of the themes the same. So I'm actually in exactly that situation at the moment. Every year we hold an event around compliance in February. And we've done it for the last, 4 years. And I just feel I'm a bit tired with it. We get good delegates, we get good sponsors, but although that there's new legislation all the time, I feel it's very samey. And I feel, from a delegate's point of view, if they went last year, are they actually going to turn around and go, do you know what, that was brilliant? We're going to get totally different people. And you just can't continuously get different people when the topic is so niche. It's such a small area. So what we actually decided to do is have the conference in the morning, run more of a small exhibition. So, because we always have more sponsors that want to exhibit. And then in the afternoon, coming back to what we were saying before, we're having breakout sessions. So we'll have 3 breakout sessions that we'll run twice, so each delegate can attend 2 of the 3. We'll have 6 in total. So it's trying those sort of things. Actually, how can we just change the format a little bit? How can we give greater interaction? If you're looking at an event where there's 150 delegates along, sometimes even more than that, you want everybody to feel that they are actually going away with something that's relevant to them. And I think it's really hard to do that when a lot of sessions aren't so interactive. Is trying to create an environment where people can actually say, do you know what, this is a nightmare in my business and I need somebody that can help me. Who do you know that can do that? And I think that's the thing. And I think, we've just had the expo last week. I don't know what your thoughts were on that. I saw you kind of walking around, and we were there. And I think they're great for meeting people. You know, you can see what's going on, and they've obviously got the presentations as well. But I don't know how much of those presentations you're in a small group of people where you can actually talk about your problems in your business and get a bit of feedback. You want people to go, do you know what? That's a nightmare in ours as well. We're really struggling. This is what we've looked at. This is how we've done this.
Yeah.
And this is where we are, and sort of not be afraid to go, do you know what, we don't have all the answers.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a couple of things I'd want to sort of refer to. We're obviously, the three of us, we organise events. You two much more than me. So I've got two true events in Scotland for Glasgow and Edinburgh, and obviously the Noras, and potentially doing more. And when I speak to other event organisers, on a one-to-one basis, people are more than happy to share what they know, but they tend to clam up when there's more of a group. I remember a couple of years ago, Teri, your big awards event, we only found it kind of near the last minute.
Oh my God!
And initially, I thought, oh God, this is going to be terrible. But after thinking about it a bit, and after speaking with you, I realised actually there are two different audiences. It'll be totally fine. And they might even complement one another. So I think at the end of your event, some of your guests came down and joined in ours. Yeah. Ours is more of a piss up, to be honest. That ended the night anyway. So it all worked out absolutely well. But when you go along to events, in the same way as, you know, people who play guitar, when they watch someone, you know, a band, they're concentrating on the guitarist. When an event organizer goes to another event, they're looking at all the, you know, the canapes and the lineup of the speakers and, you know, people behind the scenes, and they're not really getting to experience it as an ordinary guest. And when you go along to other people's events, the hard part is to try and do it as an ordinary attendee, an ordinary delegate, and get the benefit of it. One of the things that I find really difficult is when I go to events, because a lot of the speakers are people that I already know. I've sat in the pub with, I've gone through, you know, whatever the topics are, and I know their opinions on things. And sometimes they'll tell me opinions that they wouldn't present on stage because they can be more frank and not necessarily more honest, but just more brutal. So when I go to events, I don't really need to see them speak because I know what they're going to be saying. So I tend to find myself looking at the audience more and getting more experience out of the networking whenever there are breaks. So in looking at events coming up through the year, do you line out a calendar of here's what's happening each month, here's how we can differentiate ourselves from everyone else in our events, and also, you know, make sure that there are no clashes in any topics or, you know, similar events that are happening at the same time?
Yeah, it is quite tough to do. Simply because I think Louise was actually talking about putting together a full calendar, so you had all of the recruitment events in one place. So we don't have one of those at the moment. It's just who do we know that does events, and, you know, just actually collating that information. I don't envy you. You know, it's quite tough. I think on one hand, you do have to say we can't do the same thing that somebody else has done. We've got to stand out a little bit. But I think the other side is it's sort of trying to just stick to what you know. I think it's so easy to constantly trying to better someone else or do something better. But actually, some of the time, we're all really different. Everyone that organises events in recruitment, you know, the events are different. Some of the topics might be similar, but the actual events, the way they're laid out, the way that they're organised, the kind of people that come along to it, you know, it is all different. And I think for us, what we try and do is just say, do you know what? We know what works for us. We know what, you know, the events that we can put on, the ones that don't, you know, give me grey hairs or anything like that. And you sort of try and stick to that. I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen, we've got our supplier awards that are taking place next week. Yeah. And that was something for us that we'd never done before. We'd never thought about doing. And it just really, it came to us over a dinner. We were out for dinner with a client, and they said, you know, I need a new, I can't remember what they were looking for, a new provider. And I said, well, you know, we know these guys, gave them kind of a few names. And he was like, right, okay, how do I know whether any of, you know, how good they all are? And I don't know. I haven't used, you know, all the CRM systems out there or all the payroll providers. That's not in my remit. So for me, all I can look at is who I know, my personal experiences. So it's sort of sticking to what you know, but just trying to find a natural space somewhere. You know, it's things will come up and you'll go, oh, do you know what, actually, how is there not anything? How is there not something in the industry that recognises, you know, who the best technology providers are? You know, there isn't anything. So it's sort of trying to work both ways. And, you know, this is the thing with event organising, you know, as you guys know, you're constantly like in the middle. You know, there's, you know, lots of new ideas. You've got the things that you've done previously that have worked really well. In order to do something new, something you've done previously has got to go. You know, there's you physically can't continue to add to your calendar.
It's always important to make sure that regular events, because at regular events you'll get regular attendees, but you'll get new people coming who are learning these things for the first time. And whilst it might seem like old hat material that's been used before, but the new attendees, they haven't heard it and they want to hear it. So there are those regular events where people need to be given, you know, that information. But at the same time, I love to see different types of events, you know, new events that are doing things in a different way. So, for example, Jamie Leonard's Wreckfest, Wreckfest in the summer, the format and the kind of craziness of it was a big gamble. And I'm sure the very first time they did it, there was a lot of speculation that it might or it might not come off. You know, people might or might not show up. And as it turned out, there was a huge amount of goodwill. People turned up on the day and it all worked really well. And they've done it a couple of times since then. And each time they've done it quite different to the time before. So I really like to see novel events, not novel for the meaning jokey,
for the sake of it,
done in a different way so that people are coming at it from a different angle and getting a different kind of benefit from it. Louise, your events, you've got regular events that you run through the year for directors, and they're not dull events. I've been to them, but they happen regularly, and the people who attend them, they obviously get a huge amount of benefit from them. But Joe Public in the street who went into them would be, you know, if I'm honest, would be bored to tears because it's all about recruitment. And your tech events are very different to anything that ever happened before. There weren't any of those before, where you would have 20 tech providers in a room all given live demo and speed pitching at the beginning, where people are introduced to all the people on the stands before you know, being able to go and get the demos of all the products. So in planning for those different types of events, what are the main considerations that you have?
I think, and I'm sure Teri does this as well, and I'm sure all event organisers do this, the starting point is what will the objective be of the people I want to come? So who is my target audience and what will they want to get out of it? Now, that ought to be really obvious.
Yeah.
But in the recruitment space, and Teri's probably the same, absolutely tons of vendors who want to get in front of recruiters, and it'd be really, really easy to be swayed by their needs rather than the attendee need. So for the, and I'm really honest about it, so I always have been, so for the tech event, I could sell the vendor slots 5 times over. Getting the attendees there is the challenge, and getting attendees there who want to be there. So I could give away free lunches and free this and free that and do a free event, and I'd probably get the audience there. But I probably wouldn't be getting them there for the right reasons. And I think that that's the challenge for an event organizer, is identifying what the attendee need is going to be and making sure you meet it. Because that's fine to get it wrong if you only want to run an event once. You can't continue to run events and get that wrong. So I think that for the directors' events, I think we're very clear about what they're going to get out of it. So, and I'm sure you're the same, Teri. So you say, this is an event with these type of people, these are the type of people you'll be networking with, these are the type of people you're speaking. I think that if you can say there's no vendor pitches, so for the directors' events there's not, you should. And I'm sure we've all been to an event where we've expected to be learning from somebody and what they're doing for pitching.
Yeah.
And I understand.
That's really hard to deal with as well, because once they're on stage, you can't go, hang on a minute, this isn't what you told me you were going to be talking about.
And I get that. And so I'm going to use an example of a real event, the change board event. So I think those events, which don't happen anymore now, and they were for in-house recruiters, I really loved them, and they were straightforward learning events. Not change board, enhanced media events. Sorry, I'm going to come on to change board in a minute. So enhanced media did these events, which were learning events, but they had some really, really big names, and that obviously influenced the people coming. And I think what they struggled with was those people wanted to pitch. So LinkedIn and Google, they came and they talked about products. And I don't blame LinkedIn and Google, and I don't blame enhanced media for ending up in that situation. But what it does, it turns delegates off. And I think as an event organizer, you've got an obligation to be very clear to attendees what they're going to get out of it. Now, coming on to change board, now we're talking about these type of events which you and I run, Teri, where they're learning and their interaction and the workshops and there's discussion and networking. I went to the change board event last year, which was in a massive, massive theatre, and it was a very, very, I don't want to say old-fashioned because that makes it sound negative, but it was an old-fashioned format of speakers and learning, and they had some incredible speakers. But that also really, really worked. And I think it was because the audience knew what they were getting. They were not coming for interaction with the speakers. They were coming from inspiration. They were coming from learning points. And I made notes, and at every session there was learning points that people could take away. So I do think that more traditional format can work, but it's down to the attendee knowing what they're going to get from it. Because if you thought you were going to True and you went to change that, it would be, you just couldn't speak. You couldn't even talk to the person next to you during the presentations. And that's I think what we have to fulfill, Teri and Bill and Jamie, is that attendees know what they're going to get out of it. And sometimes that's not as easy to express because people,
John Rose asked a question just down below. You can see, does the choice of venue indicate what to expect? So we've seen some crazy bananas venues, like the next one for True on March 20th is going to be back at the. It's going to be back at the. Is it the King's Head, otherwise known as the Menagerie, which I think is owned and run by someone in the Russian mafia. Anyway, it's very distinctive and puts some people off, and other people love it. But other events are very corporate. You know, an office block with a very sterile environment. To what extent can the venue play a huge part in your event?
What do you think, Teri?
So for us, exactly what Louise said, it's looking at what the delegates are going to get out of it, and I think that then dictates the venue. I mean, some of the venues that we've used before, we've basically been given. So we'll work with people like, RBS, HSBC, these kind of organisations that will donate their venue to us. We don't always have sponsors at every single event, and sometimes the tickets are free. So a lot of the events that we run, we're not making a lot of money out of it. It's not a massive revenue generating activity for us. The main thing is, for us, we want to be seen at the forefront of the industry, and providing those events is a way to do that. When I was looking for this event, I'm talking about the one where we've got breakouts in the afternoon. I actually went to a venue finding service and said, kind of, this is what I want. And I actually looked at eight venues, which is unheard of. Normally it'd be like you look at 2 or 3, pick one of them, it'd be fine. Looked at 8 venues and I was like, this is not right, because this does not allow for people to go to the breakout sessions and then go to the exhibition somewhere else, the actual room, it's a bit small, or people can't just wander freely. I don't want people going to other levels of the same building for the toilets or, whatever it is. Whereas some of the other events that we run, because they're so much more structured, you can lead them. You can say, right, now is the conference, this is where we are, now we're going to this place, and you can lead them through to the next session. But for us, we want it to be a bit more relaxed, really, especially in the afternoon when there's breakouts, they can come and go and do what they want to do. And we had to have a venue where it was all on one floor. There wasn't going to be anyone else there. You know, delegates can come and go as they want. And yeah, that's a challenge. And we've gone to a venue that we've never been to before, which is another challenge. As I'm sure you guys know, you know, when you've been somewhere before, you know how it works. You know the information they need. When you turn up, this is going to be done, that's going to be done. You don't have to go in and do the final checks for this, and this. They'll have already done it.
Delegates don't care that you've never
they don't.
Before. They want it to work. And just talking about venue, whether they make an impact. So we're looking for a new venue for our tech event, and I've used a venue finding company before, and they suggested 2 venues to us. One was the Emirates Stadium, and so I said to my vendor, "How's that feel?" "Oh no, definitely not football stadium, no way." And the other one's the Masonic Lodge, which is near Sway Bar, where you hold your evening event. And beautiful, but oh my word, really big backlash to that. So I think that and that's putting vendors off. It could be putting attendees off. So obviously location is important. No, really lovely business, I won't name them, who did an event right outside of London on the outskirts, and I think that was part of the reason why their event failed, was because it was too far out. So obviously the location is important, but also the venue is. And you were talking about a true event in the, what's it called, Stephen? With all the animals?
My event coming up?
No, Bill's.
It's Kinghead.
Yeah, so that pub has got
in the middle of town, and there isn't a tube station right next to it, so you have to get there by bus or taxi.
Yeah, and there's a load of dead animals there, and some people were really put off by that. Now, I don't think that's fine. For Bill's events, he's quirky, unusual.
Yeah.
But it does bring me on to another question, which is around, not about venue, but around, and you said this with the Wreckfest, is about the credibility of the organizer. And that attendees, do you think attendees go to events because they know the organizer and they know they're credible events? Because they can't all go because of that. What do you think?
I think there's an element, and I think also coming back to the venue, although it can put people off, it can also really attract people. So both from a delegate perspective and from a sponsor, you know, if you're going to sponsor an event and you want to have an exhibition stand, you want to go somewhere, you know, where you've got space, you can get in, you can park, you can unload, the facilities are there for you, and space where the delegates can actually walk around freely and you can speak to people. We did our awards last year at the Guildhall, which, I mean, phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal, both in terms of the actual venue when you're in there, but the feedback that we got after the event, and even before, people were like, I'm so excited about going there, I've never been there before. And, you know, the previous year we were at the Underglobe at Shakespeare's Globe, which again was amazing. So I think, you know, for our awards, we have to have something that is amazing, you know, better than okay. But for our other events that we do, and I think it goes back to what people want to get out of it. I think if you're, you know, part of it is the information. You know, if you're going because there's a new piece of legislation that's come out, there's a new piece of technology that you want to know about, there's something new on the market, you don't care where it is. Really, if there's something that you really want to know, or if there's a speaker that you haven't heard before, you will go there. You know, especially in London, you know, as long as it's somewhere that, you know, you can get a tube and a cab and have a little walk, you're fine. I think, yes, when you go outside of London or you're on the outskirts, that's a bit harder to get to. We were at the Globe, which is on Embankment, and we had people moaning that it was really tough to get to. So, you know what I mean? You can't please everyone. You can't. But I think if you're going for networking and you're meeting people that you've met before that you know, and if the ticket's free, you know, if you haven't paid anything to get there, if there's just one speaker that you think, yeah, they're all right, but you didn't book and go, oh my God, I can't wait to go to this, it's going to be brilliant. You're going to just go, it's raining today. It's a 10-minute walk. I'm not going. And no one wants that. I don't want those sort of people signed up for my event. And the same as you, Louise. You know, you manage your event based on your expected numbers. And, you know, we work hard. And I think the other thing is gaining feedback. You know, we ask for feedback after all of our events. Sometimes we get loads, other times people just can't be bothered. And I understand that people are busy, but the only way for us as organisers to actually get any better is to ask for that feedback, ask for that information, and then actually, you know, do something with it.
Let me bring up something that's often amongst event organisers discussed, and that's attracting the right person is really important, but discouraging the wrong person can be just as important. Very often you'll have suppliers coming along to an event and not buying a stand and not paying to sponsor, but work in the room. So at the Rec Expo at Olympia last week, I didn't really have a purpose to work the room, but I'll be honest, there are times previously when I've gone down with that specific purpose. And I know that last week there was quite a few people there who didn't have stands but were in attendance, and they were milling around looking to either sell or do business with other exhibitors, or bump into agencies who are looking to spend money on this, that, and the other. And it's not the worst thing in the world. It's not terrible. And to be honest, you know, frankly, I would expect it. I don't mind a bit of cheekiness. But when you have an event where you're charging suppliers to be there as suppliers and have the attention of your audience of, say, recruiters, then managing that can be tricky. Jamie Leonard asked this just recently. Someone who was an RPO was looking to attend one of his events as an in-house recruiter, but effectively, you know, they were agency really, but they were embedded in an employer's office, so they wanted to attend. And he was asking, you know, how can I, you know, bar this person from coming, or should I be more open-minded and say, come on in? What do you think about that, Louise? Your event, you have those very same thoughts? I
do. So there's two arguments. One is you should do what's right for the other attendees. The other argument is you should do what's right for the vendors. So for the purpose of this conversation, which is about how attendees should choose, I should allow anyone to attend who can benefit other attendees. So with the tech events, we have vendors and we have experts, and they are people who do not pay to come here, but give advice. So, but as an event organizer, when someone turns up who is a vendor to one of our directors' events, we don't let them in. Now, maybe they weren't going to sell anything to attendees, maybe they were, but like Teri says, there actually isn't a hell of a lot of money in organising events, and you've got to protect the relationships you have. And I think that attendees would probably, if you're sitting at a round table event, one of mine or one of yours, Teri's, and there's expert speakers and there's experts on the table and there's some other bloke who's just turned up trying to flog his umbrella company, that doesn't benefit anybody. And attendees do not want to be sideswiped by someone flogging them something, especially someone flogging them something who isn't sponsoring, it isn't paying for their lunch and all the rest of it. So no, I'm quite strict.
I think the other thing on that is coming back to setting the expectations for delegates. You know, at the end of the day, delegates went to the expo not for, you know, chatting to people that they know. They knew that there was going to be an exhibition there. They knew that there was going to be people there trying to sell them whatever, you know. They also knew that there was going to be talks, but you'd probably have to walk through the exhibitions to get to the talks. Okay, so everyone knew what it was going to be like. If you come to a round table learning event and there's someone trying to sell to you, okay, that isn't what I thought it was going to be, and next time I won't go. And this is it. It's exactly what Louise, you've got to protect that. And part of it is your reputation. That's my reputation. I'm the one that's organised that event. And people are going to be looking and saying, do you know what? I went to that and all they did was sell to me. No, I don't want that, you know. And it's exactly the same as, so Louise's directors' events. So they're directors' events. You know, kind of the clue is in the name. So I think it's for people booking onto events, actually look at the information. So for the conference that we've got coming up at the end of March, we've actually said, so if you're an owner or a director of a recruitment business, it's free for you to come along.
Yeah.
So that would cover, you know, finance directors, compliance, legal, you know, anything. As long as you're that senior level, that's what we want. If you're not, you can, and you'd like to come, you can contact me. So, you know, there might be people that would really benefit from it. Might be a manager, or might be about to go into a management role, or, you know, for their role, they need to know this information, in which case I'll just do a little bit of digging on LinkedIn, see what their actual situation is, and make a call.
Yeah.
But I don't want suppliers to just turn up. So I basically now say I charge suppliers £150 if you want to come. Not for the money, just because to deter them, because I don't really, you know, that isn't what we want.
Not what you want a room full of, because
No.
that absolutely changes the event. Yeah.
And we're what we've done is we've always said our events are about 100 delegates, and we won't allow more than sort of 5 or 10 to be suppliers. But to be fair, it's, you know, it's really tough. Although I did hear today that someone else that organises events in the industry charges £1,000 for suppliers to come along as a delegate, and I quite like the idea of that. So
That's a conversation offline about that. I want to know who that is.
yeah. So, but I'm also thinking, you know, I understand you're deterring people, but also there's the other side, because same with you, Louise, there's a lot of organisations that really support us, that, you know, they you know, spend a lot of money with us, and we provide the service, and they're happy, and we've got a great relationship. So then when you have an event that that isn't right for them to sponsor, but they do still want to come along, that's a hard line. You've sort of got to be able to go, do you know what? I know that you do support me in a lot of stuff, but I've got one of your competitors here, or, you know, I can't fit you in, or, you know, this is not right for you to come. And I think luckily with those sort of organisations, you've built up a relationship and they understand the situation that you're in. But it's not fun, you know, you want all those people there, don't you? You just want them to be able to, you know, just sit in the corner, shut up, don't sell to anyone, just be here to listen to what's going on. But they don't.
In those situations, they would understand that when they were sponsoring an event, you would take the same line with other people, so they weren't being, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Right. Well, I think we're 40 minutes in. We're at.
How did that happen?
I don't know. It's brilliant, isn't it? Stephen, did you want to say anything else? I've made some notes. I have a summary. Did you want to say anything else before we go into our summary?
Well, really just that. As all recruiters will know, whether you're in-house or HR or agency recruiters, you could, certainly if you live in London, if you're in Glasgow or Aberdeen or anywhere else in the country, you're not spoiled in the same way. But in London, you could literally be going to a couple of events every week. It's entirely possible to be out of the office the whole time. I do think that any active recruiter, certainly any active agency owner or manager or in-house recruitment manager at whatever level, should be taking time out to be out in the marketplace, finding out what's going on, what tech developments there are, really just the temperature of the marketplace in recruitment, even if it's not in their own specific sector, because there's an awful lot developing all the time. There's an awful lot to be learned from, and even if it's just in those networking conversations with people in, you know, completely different sectors, they might be doing things in different ways that you can pick up top tips on. And frankly, from a career point of view and from a personal branding point of view, it's good to be seen out there. If you're an in-house recruiter and at some point you reckon you're not going to be with the company that you're currently with, it's far better to be out there and to be known and to have your opinions out and valued and shared, as well as learning from everyone else. So it's good to do that. So I would say to everyone, try and pick carefully the events through the year. Spread them throughout the year. Don't go everything in January, nothing for the rest of the year. And if there's costs involved, then weigh up, well, what am I going to get out of this from a business? What am I going to get out of this for me personally? And you know, is it worth it at the end of the day? Whether it's the cost of a ticket or the time out of the office, or the price of getting a hotel room and a sleeper back to Scotland if you've gone down the distance. So all of those things, you have to weigh them up. But absolutely, if you plan ahead carefully, certainly from my point of view, I can get flights to London often for £20, £30 return. So if I plan ahead, then I can get tickets for next to nothing, and often get there cheaper than people in the home counties. So you can attend a lot of these events if you plan carefully, and you can get a huge amount of benefits from it if you plan carefully as well. So that's essentially it.
Well, that actually was more or less my summary there, Stephen. That's
okay.
it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this into a blog post so that we can share it online as well, and I'll link to your upcoming events, Teri, especially the new one which you've got in the end of March, and the other ones. I want to thank Firefish Software because they are sponsoring these live chats. We've got the next one on the 21st of February. We haven't quite decided what we're talking about, but it'll be something else really useful for recruiters. So thanks very much, Teri, and Stephen, thanks for doing all the tech on this.
Thank you very much.
For having me.
Cheers.
Thanks, everybody.
We're now offline.